Hi friends, and welcome back to English Podcast for Listening and Speaking. It's so lovely to have you join me again, or perhaps for the very first time. Here, we believe that learning English can be a truly calm, gentle, and reflective journey. One filled with stories and quiet moments, rather than hurried lessons. We want to make it feel like a comforting conversation, a peaceful space where you can simply listen, absorb, and slowly, naturally, grow your English skills. If this episode helps you feel a little more confident, a little more at ease with English today, I'd be so grateful if you liked, subscribed, or left a kind comment. Your support truly helps this little peaceful corner of learning reach more friends like you. Now, get comfortable, maybe pour some tea, and let's begin. Have you ever felt that quiet whisper inside you? That little voice that tells you not to try something new, not to step out, not to take a chance? Perhaps it's when you think about starting a new project, or learning a new skill, or even just speaking a foreign language when you feel unsure. That subtle hesitation, that tightening in your chest, that's often the whisper of fear. And today, we're going to gently explore one of the most common, yet often unspoken, fears that holds us back. The fear of failure. It's a deeply human feeling, isn't it? I remember a time, not so long ago, when I wanted to learn to play the guitar. I bought one, a beautiful acoustic guitar, and it sat there, leaning against the wall, for weeks. Every time I looked at it, I would feel a mix of excitement and a strange cold knot in my stomach. What if I was terrible? What if my fingers wouldn't move correctly? What if I made awful sounds? It wasn't just the fear of making mistakes. It was the fear of being seen as someone who tried and failed, of confirming a belief that I wasn't good enough. This is precisely what we mean by the fear of failure. It's much more than just being afraid of not succeeding. It's the deep-seated belief that if we fail, it will lead to something much worse, perhaps profound shame, or harsh judgment from others, or a painful loss of self-worth. It's not about the mistake itself, but about what that mistake might mean about us. We worry it might expose a flaw, or prove that we aren't smart enough, or talented enough, or capable enough. It's a fear wrapped in layers of perception, both our own and what we imagine others might have of us. So, where does this often silent, yet powerful fear come from? Its roots can stretch back surprisingly far, often to our earliest memories. Think about childhood experiences. Perhaps when you were very young, a small mistake, spilling milk, drawing outside the lines, or struggling with a school task, was met with a disproportionately strong reaction. Maybe there was punishment, or a sigh of disappointment, or even a sense of being shamed for not getting it right. Over time, these experiences can teach us a subtle, yet powerful lesson. Mistakes are bad, and if we make them, there will be negative consequences. We learn to associate failure not just with an outcome, but with a personal flaw. Another significant root cause is the immense societal pressure we often feel, especially in today's world. Just think about social media for a moment. What do we mostly see there? Highlight reels, perfect moments, effortless successes. We rarely see the struggles, the messy middle, or the numerous attempts that led to that one polished outcome. This constant exposure to a curated world of perfection can create an unrealistic expectation within us. We start to believe that success should look easy, flawless, and immediate. And if our own journey isn't instantly perfect, we might feel like we're falling short or failing in some fundamental way. This pressure to be perfect can be incredibly heavy, making the thought of even a small misstep feel unbearable. And then, there are our own negative past experiences and the sting of criticism. We've all been there. We tried something, perhaps with great hope and effort, and it simply didn't work out. Maybe we received harsh words, or an unkind laugh, or a dismissive comment. That memory, that emotional residue, can linger. It creates a powerful barrier, a protective mechanism that whispers, "Don't try that again. Remember how much that hurt last time?" Our minds, in their effort to keep us safe from pain, often oversimplify, telling us that avoidance is the best strategy. So, how does this fear, this quiet whisper, actually affect us in our daily lives? Its impact can be far-reaching, often without us even realizing it. One of the most common ways it manifests is by holding us back from starting new things. Perhaps you dream of starting a small online business, or picking up a new hobby like painting, or even just signing up for an advanced English class. But that fear of failure can keep you stuck, perpetually waiting for the perfect moment, or feeling like you need more preparation, or just convincing yourself it's not the right time. The dream remains just that, a dream, never taking shape in reality. This often leads directly to procrastination. We tell ourselves, "I'll do it later," or "I'm not ready yet," or "I need to research more." But deep down, it's often that nagging fear of what might happen if we actually begin. If we start, we might fail, and that's a risk our subconscious is trying to avoid. So, we delay, we distract ourselves, we find endless reasons not to take that first brave step. The fear of failure also deeply impacts our confidence. Each time we let that fear stop us from trying, our belief in our own abilities shrinks a little. We start to internalize the idea that we are not capable, not strong enough, or not intelligent enough to tackle new challenges. This low confidence then creates a vicious cycle, making us even more hesitant to try anything new, reinforcing the fear. It's like a muscle that grows weaker from lack of use, and beyond these tangible effects, this fear can bring with it a heavy emotional toll. It can lead to anxiety, a constant underlying worry about future outcomes, about judgment, about not measuring up. It can also bring moments of sadness, a quiet regret for all the opportunities we've let slip by, for the potential we haven't explored. We feel the weight of unfulfilled dreams, of paths not taken, and that can be a very heavy burden to carry. Think about missed opportunities. How many times has an exciting chance presented itself? A new job offer, an invitation to collaborate, a simple request to share an idea, and that whisper of fear made us say no? All those chances that simply slipped away, not because we weren't capable, but because we were too afraid to try. Even small actions, like speaking a foreign language, can be blocked by this fear. When you're learning English, for example, the thought of saying a word incorrectly or using the wrong grammar in a conversation can feel like a huge risk. We might choose to stay silent, to listen rather than speak, even when we know the answer, just to avoid the perceived embarrassment or judgment of making a mistake. It's a very common experience for language learners, and it's a clear example of how the fear of failure keeps us from practicing, from growing, and from truly embracing the language. So, you see, The fear of failure is a complex and often invisible force that shapes our lives in profound ways. But understanding it, bringing it into the light, is the first step towards truly breaking free from its hold. Now that we've gently explored what fear of failure is and how it quietly affects us, let's unlock some words together. These aren't just words, they're like little keys that can help us understand ourselves and our journey a bit better. You know that feeling when you have something important to do, but you find yourself doing everything else instead? You clean your house, scroll through your phone, or suddenly decide to organize your entire bookshelf. That's often called procrastination. It's the act of delaying or postponing tasks or decisions, often because we feel overwhelmed, or yes, because of that whisper of fear. When I felt the fear about learning guitar, I found myself constantly procrastinating, finding endless other small tasks to do instead of picking up my instrument and practicing. It felt safer to just think about playing than to actually try and risk sounding bad. Can you say that word with me? Slowly, gently. Procrastination. Procrastination. Next, let's talk about something truly powerful. Reframing. This word means to change the way we look at something, to give it a new perspective. Imagine you're looking at a painting. If you step back or change the light, you might see details you missed before, or feel a different emotion. That's what reframing is like for our thoughts. Instead of seeing a mistake as a huge, terrible failure, we can try reframing it as a valuable learning opportunity, a stepping stone on our path. It's about consciously shifting our viewpoint. Let's try saying it. Reframing. Reframing. And when we do try, and perhaps stumble, there's a beautiful quality we can develop called resilience. Resilience is the ability to recover quickly from difficulties, to bounce back after a setback. It's like a strong, flexible tree that bends in the wind but doesn't break. It's not about never falling, but about how quickly and gracefully we get back up. Even after facing multiple rejections for her books, J.K. Rowling showed incredible resilience, continuing to write and believe in her story until it found its audience. Her ability to bounce back was key. Can you feel this word as you say it? Resilience. Resilience. Now, two very important concepts often discussed together. The first is a growth mindset. This is the belief that our abilities and intelligence are not fixed, but can be developed and improved through dedication, hard work, and learning from experience. It's the idea that with effort, we can get better at anything. With a growth mindset, I began to see my guitar struggles not as a sign of being untalented, but as a normal part of the learning process, a chance to grow my skill and understanding. It transforms "I can't do it" into "I can learn how to do it." Let's practice this hopeful phrase. Growth mindset. Growth mindset. Its opposite, in many ways, is a fixed mindset. This is the belief that our abilities are simply natural talents, that we are either good at something or not, and that these qualities cannot be significantly changed. If you believe you're just not good at math, or can't learn languages, that's a sign of a fixed mindset. If I had stayed in a fixed mindset, I might have given up on the guitar after the first few difficult chords, thinking I just wasn't naturally musical, and that would have been the end of it. It can be a very limiting way to think. Let's gently say this one. Fixed mindset. Fixed mindset. Another word that often comes up when we talk about fear of failure is perfectionism. This is the desire to do things absolutely perfectly, to avoid any mistakes whatsoever. It's not about doing a good job, it's about needing it to be flawless. While it sounds good on the surface, perfectionism can actually hold us back, because the fear of not being perfect can stop us from even starting. Sometimes, my perfectionism makes me spend too much time planning and replanning, instead of just taking that first, imperfect step forward. Can you say perfectionism with me? Perfectionism. And finally, let's talk about self-talk. This refers to the inner voice in our head, the thoughts we have about ourselves and our experiences. It's that ongoing conversation happening silently inside you. This self-talk can be kind and encouraging, or it can be critical and discouraging. Changing my negative self-talk, those thoughts like, "I'm not good enough," to more positive, supportive words, helped me overcome my fear of speaking English in front of others. It made a profound difference. Let's practice this one. Self-talk. Self-talk. Sometimes, when we are thinking about fear, we also start to think about what we might do, or what we would do if things were different. This leads us beautifully into exploring how we talk about possibilities and what could happen. We often use special sentence structures to express these ideas, and they can be very helpful when we're trying to understand our feelings about fear and courage. Let's think about what happens when we do take action, even a small one. Imagine you're standing at the edge of something new, feeling that familiar whisper of fear. Now, consider this. If you take a tiny step, you will feel a little bit of courage. Do you hear how that works? We use if with a present action, and then will for the result in the future. It's like saying, for every brave step, there's a direct positive outcome waiting for you. So, for example, if I decide to speak English today, even just one sentence, I will improve my confidence. It's a direct connection, a simple truth. Or, if you practice 10 minutes of guitar every day, you will get better over time. This grammar pattern helps us see the direct path from a brave action to a positive result. It helps us map out how our small efforts will lead to growth. Now, let's gently shift our perspective a little. What about those times when we think about what could be if fear wasn't holding us back? Here, we often use a different way of speaking to imagine things that aren't happening right now, but that we wish were true. For instance, sometimes I think, if I weren't so afraid of making mistakes, I would try to sing in front of people. Notice the difference? Here, after if, we use the past tense of the verb weren't instead of am not, and then would for the imaginary result. This is a beautiful way to express what we dream of doing, or what our lives would be like if fear simply vanished. For example, if you didn't procrastinate so much, you would finish your projects faster and feel less stress. Or, if she had a growth mindset, she would see every challenge as an opportunity to learn. It's about reflecting on hypothetical situations, allowing us to explore the impact of fear, and also imagine a world where we act more bravely. So, we have two ways of looking at our actions and their consequences. If I do this, I will see that result for real and likely outcomes. And if I were different, or if things were different, I would do this. For those imagined possibilities, for exploring what we wish we could achieve without the weight of fear. Both patterns help us understand the landscape of our courage and our fears. After we've gently explored how we talk about possibilities and consequences, both real and imagined, it's time to truly step beyond the shadow that fear of failure can cast. Because, dear friend, failure is not, and never has been, the opposite of success. Instead, it is so often a vital, enriching, and sometimes even beautiful part of the path to whatever success means for you. Think about the stories we tell, the legends we admire. Take, for example, Michael Jordan. When we hear his name, we think of greatness, of basketball mastery, of a winner. But did you know he was actually cut from his high school varsity basketball team? Imagine that moment for a young Michael. A setback, a rejection. But did he stop? No. He used that moment, that initial failure, to fuel his dedication, to push himself harder, to become better. His story isn't about never failing. It's about how he reframed that failure, how he let it build his resilience and reshape his path, ultimately leading him to incredible heights. It was a step on the path, not the end of it. So often, our fear of failure makes us believe that if we try something and it doesn't work, we are somehow less, that we will be shamed or judged, or that we will lose something important, be it reputation, money, or even just our own sense of self-worth. This belief, this quiet whisper of dread, is what truly holds us back. It's what keeps us from starting that new business, from trying to learn a new skill, or even from simply speaking English when we feel unsure. Perhaps you've noticed some of these signs in your own life. Do you ever catch yourself saying, "Oh, I'll do that later," or "It's just not the right time right now"? This is often procrastination, a gentle way our mind uses to avoid the possibility of failure. Or maybe you find yourself needing everything to be absolutely perfect before you even begin. That feeling of perfectionism that can freeze us in place. Other common signs include actively avoiding new challenges, choosing the familiar path even when your heart yearns for something new. There might be negative self-talk, those quiet, harsh words we say to ourselves when we imagine not succeeding. And of course, a deep fear of judgment from others. These indicators, these little whispers and habits, are often the ways our fear of failure shows itself. But what if we could shift our perspective? What if we could see these moments not as absolute endings, but as valuable lessons? This brings us to a beautiful concept called the growth mindset. Imagine your abilities like a muscle. With effort and practice, your muscles get stronger, don't they? That's the core of a growth mindset. The belief that your abilities, your intelligence, your skills can improve and grow with effort. It's the opposite of a fixed mindset, which suggests that you're either good at something or you're not, and there's nothing you can do about it. With a growth mindset, instead of saying, "I can't do this," you might gently reframe it to, "I can learn how to do this." Instead of viewing mistakes as terrible failures, you start to see them as wonderful teachers, guiding you to new understanding. And crucially, you learn to celebrate small wins, those tiny steps forward, rather than waiting only for some grand, ultimate success. Because every small win, every little moment of courage, builds upon itself. Now, what happens when failure does occur? Because it will. It's part of the human experience. First, allow yourself to feel it. It's okay to feel disappointed or frustrated, or even a little sad. These are natural emotions. But the key is not to dwell in them indefinitely. Feel them, acknowledge them, and then gently begin to reflect. Ask yourself in a kind way, what went wrong here? What can I learn from this experience? What can I improve next time? This reflection is powerful. It transforms a stumble into a stepping stone. Then, and this is crucial, try again. Use the new knowledge, the new understanding you've gained to move forward. For example, imagine you're practicing public speaking and you make a mistake. Perhaps you forget a word or stumble over a phrase. It might feel like a failure in that moment, but if you reflect, you might realize you need more practice with transitions, or perhaps to slow down your pace. And the next time you speak, you use that knowledge and you become a little better, a little more confident. Your initial mistake didn't stop you, it taught you. So, how can we practically begin to overcome this fear? It truly starts with small, brave steps. Do one tiny thing each day that is just a little bit outside your comfort zone. Maybe it's speaking one new English sentence or sending that email you've been putting off. Remember, if you start with a small step, you will build momentum. Another helpful tip is to write down your fear. When we put our fears on paper, they often become less overwhelming, more manageable. They lose some of their power when we can look at them directly. And while you're writing, perhaps visualize success. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine things going well. Imagine yourself achieving that goal, feeling confident and capable. If you visualize success, you will prepare your mind for it. Sometimes, simply talking to someone you trust about your fears can make a huge difference. Verbalizing your worries, giving them voice, often reduces their intensity. You might find that the fear isn't as big once you've shared it. And finally, remember to reward yourself not just for results, but for your effort. Celebrate the courage it took to try, the dedication it took to keep going, regardless of the outcome. If you reward effort, you will encourage more bravery. Now, let's practice using some of the vocabulary we've talked about, and also those useful grammar patterns we explored earlier. Listen carefully, and then try repeating after me slowly. Then, I'll give you a soft prompt for you to answer in English. Ready? Let's start with the idea of procrastination. It's when we delay or put off tasks. Repeat after me. Procrastination. Now, let's use it with our grammar. If I overcome my procrastination today, I will feel more peaceful. Your turn to repeat. If I overcome my procrastination today, I will feel more peaceful. Now, a gentle question for you to answer aloud, or just to yourself. What is one thing you often procrastinate on? Next, let's think about resilience. This is our ability to recover quickly from difficulties. Repeat after me. Resilience. Here's a sentence. If you build resilience, you will see challenges as opportunities. Repeat. If you build resilience, you will see challenges as opportunities. Your prompt. How does being resilient help you learn English? Let's practice with the concept of a growth mindset. Remember, it's the belief that abilities can be developed. Repeat. Growth mindset. Using our second grammar pattern, the one for imagining. If I I had a growth mindset from the start, I would have tried many more things. Repeat. If I had a growth mindset from the start, I would have tried many more things. Now think about this. What is one new skill you would try to learn if you completely embraced a growth mindset? Another important word is judgment. This is the act of forming an opinion about someone or something. Our fear of judgment often stops us. Repeat. Judgment. Here's a sentence with would. If I weren't afraid of judgment, I would speak English more often in public. Repeat. If I weren't afraid of judgment, I would speak English more often in public. Your prompt. What is something you would do more often if you had no fear of judgment? Finally, let's consider opportunity. This is a set of circumstances that makes it possible to do something. Repeat. Opportunity. And here's a sentence. If we view setbacks as opportunities, we will always find a way forward. Repeat. If so, we view setbacks as opportunities, we will always find as a way forward. Your prompt. Can you think of a past failure that later became an opportunity for you? Take your time with these questions and don't feel any pressure. The goal is simply to let these words and ideas settle into your mind and to give your speaking muscles a gentle stretch. You could even take a moment after this podcast to write your answers in a journal. It's a wonderful way to practice your English and reflect on your own journey. As we gently draw our time together to a close today, let's take a moment to breathe and reflect on the journey we've shared. We started by acknowledging that quiet whisper, that feeling of fear of failure that can sometimes settle in our hearts. It's such a universal human experience, isn't it? A feeling that can keep us from taking that first step, from speaking that new English sentence, or from truly embracing a new opportunity. We saw how this fear, often rooted in past experiences or societal whispers, can manifest as procrastination, or that need for everything to be absolutely perfect. It can make us miss beautiful opportunities to learn and grow. But then, we gently turned our perspective, seeing how failure isn't an ending, but often a detour, a teacher, a stepping stone on the path to something greater. Think again of Michael Jordan or any story of perseverance. Their path was never perfectly smooth. It was their resilience, their ability to bounce back, that truly defined them. We explored the power of a growth mindset, that beautiful belief that our abilities are like muscles, ready to grow stronger with effort and practice. Shifting from "I can't" to "I can learn" truly opens up worlds. And we understood that when setbacks happen, which they will, the most important thing is to allow yourself to feel, to reflect, and then, gently, to try again, armed with new understanding. So, how can we keep nurturing this courage, this resilience, in our daily lives? It's often in the small, consistent actions. I encourage you to try one brave thing each day. It doesn't need to be monumental. It could be something as simple as saying hello to someone new in English, or trying a sentence you felt unsure about. Just one small step beyond your comfort zone. Also, take a moment to record your wins. These aren't just the big achievements, but every tiny moment of progress. Maybe you understood a difficult phrase today, or you spoke a new word clearly. Celebrate these small victories, because they build the foundation of lasting confidence. And please, practice kind self-talk. Be your own best friend, your gentle cheerleader. When that inner critic speaks, respond with compassion and understanding, reminding yourself that learning is a process, full of beautiful imperfections. Finally, seek out positive inspiration. Immerse yourself in stories of resilience, listen to uplifting words, or simply notice the courage in everyday moments around you. Let these positive voices fill your space and remind you of the incredible strength within you. Remember, dear listener, the fear of failure is a normal human feeling. You don't need to eliminate it entirely. What matters is that you choose to act bravely, gently, despite its presence. Every small step you take, every time you try, you are growing. That's where true progress happens, in those courageous moments, just outside your comfort zone. If this episode has offered you a moment of peace, or a feeling of greater confidence in your English today, I would be so incredibly grateful if you considered sharing it with someone else who is also on their learning journey. Perhaps a friend who might benefit from these gentle reminders about breaking free from the fear of failure. Until next time, please take the best care of yourself and keep learning, one brave, gentle step at a time. Thank you for sharing your time with me.